to understand or deal with mental health amongst Asian women, you must understand and relate to cultural norms and codes associated with Izzat, Sharam, Fuzz and Kismet, and how they impact on and disempower Asian women. Izzat in the Asian community for Asian women means control of their conduct, behaviour, dress code, and their mode of operation within the Asian society.
A sense of respecting their boundaries and respecting their rules. It's quite a cultural thing for me. It is something which you yourself, in yourself, knows, and you know those boundaries almost without saying what they are. But it's about respecting your own family and your own self.
There's more of a burden of Izzat on women, even now. Back in the day, it was obviously evident. I think even still today, it exists. It seems to be more societal pressure on a woman in an Asian family, especially. Men are exempt from this.
Women raised as the name as a symbol of Izzat. As you've been a daughter or a wife or mother, grandmother, whichever age a woman is everything is Izzat. Their name is next to Izzat. It doesn't apply to the men. I don't know why, but mostly in Asian community. But all the burden of Izzat, they put it on women's shoulder. The label of Izzat and Sharam, and when it comes to that word, Izzat, is mean you are quiet. You are not supposed to say a word happen in the house. No one should know. That's where it goes wrong. You know, मेरी ना कटवाएगी तो इस तरह करेगी, and then since beginning आपको रेज इस तरह किया जा रहा होता है कि आपने जिंदगी में कुछ नहीं करना, आपने सिर्फ एक अच्छी बीवी, अच्छी बहू और एक अच्छी माँ बनना है. That's all. उसके अलावा you are not supposed to do anything. You are nothing else. That's where it comes that you are nothing else. The burden of whole family is on poor girl's shoulder.
You know, women are expected to behave in a certain way, but those same rules don't always apply for the males in your family, for example.
Izzat to me means respect, self-respect, respecting others, respecting your family members, respecting boundaries.
Sharam is when women of the family undertake any act or behaviour or say things which are disrespectful according to the rules of the society, and therefore bring sharam to their father or to their father-in-law's khandan.
Sharam to me is associated with shame, and with also associated with something that is not acceptable to the cultural bounds of your of your family or your loved ones, or who you belong to. And I'm talking in context of a family, and that could be your immediate family, it could be your wider circle of family. So sharam is something that you have done or is embarrassing, or is something which is not acceptable and will bring a sense of bad repute to the family. And it can be unwritten things. It can be something which is very emotional as well. But again, it's almost like unwritten codes, which everybody kind of knows in your own household.
Sharam basically means shame. Shame, again, nothing to do with me, that my actions would be transported into shame to my family. regardless of the rights and wrongs. So the word sharm I was brought up really with the word sharm, that anything I do would bring shame to the family. First means obligation towards the family, not to yourself, but the family. What's expected of me as an Asian woman, what my obligations are to the family. Being a very obedient wife, daughter, mother, and not having any of my own interpretation of my feelings and what I think a woman should be doing.
Fuzz in an Asian community for Asian women means being obedient, dutiful, and carrying out a set of family and community responsibilities which are bestowed upon them by the patriarchal society and communicated down through their male elders within the family on what is right and wrong and what is expected of women before marriage and after marriage, depending on which role they undertake.
Farz is your duty. That's what it means. And again, and it's kind of tied in with the other two words. But farz to me means it's what's expected of you. And that could be in your hierarchy of order of the family where you sit. So you could have farz as a duty or something that you're responsible for as an aunt, as a daughter, as a mother. That is your farz, is what's expected of you. And it also ties in with keeping everything acceptable, keeping everything reputable. It's your duty to make something happen in the right way.
First, to me, means having a duty of care, having boundaries set in place that you feel obligated to do. It might not necessarily be what you think is correct or what you think is acceptable, but you know it's something you have to do in order to maintain a certain stature in life almost. It could be, something really simple, it could be something really big, but it's something that is important to your surroundings and to the people around you. Maybe not necessarily you as an individual, but you feel obligated to go with it, and it becomes your first to do or act or believe or behave in a certain way.
Qismat in an Asian community, in a religious context, means it is your fate. It is what is meant for you. It's God's will.
Kismet is where you bring your past life. That's what I was brought up with. Your past life. Whatever you did in your past life is going to now dictate what's going to happen in the present. Oh, karma, karma is acceptance to me. So we were brought up that whatever's dished out to you, whatever your life throws at you, whatever decisions your family makes for you, is your karma.
Izzat, Sharm, Farz are not only critical concepts, but they're structural codes embedded within all Asian communities, which are used to define the behavior, set rules for, and define roles for Asian women. They're used to justify control over Asian women, limit their freedoms, their choices within families, within relationships, within the home and in the wider community.
I think when they're applied to women, they're negative because it's about duty as opposed to what they may want to do. It's what they're expected to do, and the expectation is narrow. So their role is defined by farz. You know, it's your duty to be XYZ, and that XYZ may be, you know, a dutiful wife, a dutiful mother, a dutiful woman. But applied to men, duty, I'm not sure if it's ever sometimes negative, but it's usually a positively applied. You know, you're head of the family, you're the breadwinner. They're not applied negatively. And honour, and particularly izzat, rarely applied to a man, if I'm honest. It's usually 90%. It's the family's izzat is dependent upon how the woman acts, behaves, how is she perceived.
I think that Asian women that are younger face different pressures because they're torn between their traditions of protecting a family from sharm and protecting reputation, at the same time as being in a Western environment where things like freedom and choice and kind of love are so important. So I think the pressures are slightly different on younger women compared to their mothers. But if you live with your mother and you're close to your mother, likely her pressures are going to come onto you anyway, and it creates more of a conflict internally.
Unless we change our grandmas, our moms, it still be the same. Because they live in that circle, and their cycle is start ages ago. And they keep following it, they suffer because of it, but they still don't want to break it. That's the problem.
I think the older generation need to reflect internally on how they are transmitting the pressures of sharm and farz and izzat to their daughters and daughter-in-laws. I think that today's Asian mother-in-laws can stop placing traditional expectations on their daughter-in-laws of farz, izzat and sharm.
Asian women do not seek help for their mental health distress and unhappiness because it is seen as failing their farz of duty and responsibility within the household and family. It brings sharm onto their family and community, and because they are fearful of not being understood when they seek help. The major barrier for women to seek help in the Asian community to support them with their mental health and the causes of that mental health, including domestic violence within a marriage or within a parental household, family conflict between mother-in-law, father-in-law and daughter-in-law, pressures to conform to what is expected of Asian women within our community, is because they fear that they will be bringing sharm onto their family by seeking help, and that actually they are seen to be disobedient by sharing their personal challenges outside of the home. There are two key concepts which are used repeatedly within our Asian community. One is log kya kahenge. The second is apni baap ki pagdi ko dag nahi lagana.
I think the reasons why women don't speak out is so complicated, and at the root is a mixture of a lack of understanding that comes from memories that have been buried, traumatic experiences that are seen as normal, and the fear of actually leaving because of the shutdown that would bring on the family, on the daughter, on the wife, the mother. I think the main barriers to women experiencing mental health struggles are first the shame that comes with admitting you are struggling, the shame that comes with having to feel your emotions that are quite intense in themselves, the fear of being seen as weak and unable to cope, and I think the fear of the dominating males in the family and an inability to challenge how they are and how they want things to be.
Honour killing comes from the patriarchal society that we live in and the paramount importance that is put on izzat. Family izzat, a father's izzat and a husband's izzat. Izzat belongs to men, but women are the custodians of izzat. They are the ones who have to uphold it, and they are the ones that carry it on their shoulders. But it belongs to men. So anything that happens to tarnish that izzat brings sharm onto the man of the family, the head of the family, and women are then shunned, and they have brought sharm onto that man, whether it's been her father, whether it be her father-in-law, whether it be her husband. That's where apni baap the bagrin ko is dag mat lagana comes from.
I don't think there's any open conversations in the Asian community, particularly about women's struggles. I think there's an expectation that you block it out and you keep going. You just keep going to protect your izzat and you're protecting the family from sharm. And there's a lot of fear that reputation is lost and social standing is you will be put to the bottom of it, I think.
Whether you're a modern family or a traditional family, whether you've been living in England for 50 years or whether you've been living here for 10 years, I think it affects all generations, whether you're educated, uneducated, social background. I think it exists in really many different ways. That patriarchy is absolutely still very much apparent and still very much dominating our communities.
So the concepts of izzat, sharm, faz, kismet are set by men, predominantly for women. They are a controlling force for women in the sense of how they behave, what they do not do, and therefore their whole behaviour and being is controlled through those concepts based on a patriarchal society of men controlling women in every facet of their lives. That's what needs to change, is the patriarchal society under which we live has to become more equal.
The cultural elements of sharm and izzat and faz are not understood or even mentioned by many mental health professionals.
Mental health statutory services need to recognise that Asian women's need for support is deep-rooted because of the controlling factors that izzat, sharm, faz and kismet have had on their lives from when they've been a young girl growing up, and that they carry these social controls throughout their lives. and the interventions that the statutory services use do not adequately support those trauma-based experiences that Asian women have gone through, and therefore the support that they need needs to be equal but different in how they work with and support Asian women.
I don't think current mental health services are supportive for Asian women. My personal experiences being in an area that was predominantly a white community meant that almost every single professional I saw, from the receptionist to the lead psychiatrist, they were never the same skin colour as me. They never understood the family pressures or the context.
Every single woman I've spoken to who's used statutory services, including myself, our experience is that actually before you're comfortable in actually beginning to think about how you deal with the mental health episode, your counsellor has said, next week is our last session. And therefore you have poured your heart out, but you have not got into a place where you feel that you are now stronger to be able to go back and deal with the issues that are causing you mental health.
I know individuals who've gone to seek therapy or counselling, you know, an individual seeking counselling after having gone through a very difficult period and suffering from quite depression. But the services that they were sent to weren't really being able to address their needs. They did their best, and there's certain elements of therapy in terms of how to, you know, how to improve your well-being that were suitable. But overall, there's a complete lack of knowledge what those issues are and how to address them and how to help people kind of navigate them themselves.
Fundamentally, I think what the statutory services need to do is recognise that actually what we need is Asian women's specialist counselling services. My experience to date of having run those services and those that are running in the country, which are few and far between, are the most effective. The reason why they're more effective is because women feel safe. There's other women who have gone through the same experience, have got through that experience, become stronger, and are there to support them and help them through. And that role model is strength in itself, to be able to say that I was there too, I was able to get through it, so will you. So to give them hope is probably the most important thing that any support service can offer. Younger Asian women today navigate between being independent and doing the things that they want to do in the way that they want to do them, but there is a line that their parents or their in-laws say, don't cross this line. There is a sense of things have changed, however, everything has not changed. My mother's generation accepted what the cultural and religious expectations were. Izzat, Faz, Sharm, Kismet laid down as the rules of operating for. They did not challenge, they accepted that position. Whether it's a good one or a bad one, they accepted it. The majority of my generation all had an expectation that they would be conforming to those rules. However, they themselves were aware that these rules are there just for themselves and not for their brothers, not for their husbands or their brother-in-laws, only for them. And so that concept of women and men's equality was becoming to be more conscious for that generation. The concept of these rules have been set historically by people in different generations, but are still being carried through as traditions and societal norms young women today are fully aware of. They have the ability to understand and recognise where these norms, rules have come from. However, they are still struggling for those rules not to be enforced upon them, that they can live their lives in the way that they choose to. So they struggle with living two lives, more so than my generation did, because although they are independent, they have very successful jobs, they have love marriages. It's the inference almost is there is a relaxation and you can do all of these things as Asian women. However, the however or the but is so strong in the sense of they are still rules and expectations you have to abide by. Those rules and expectations cause immense mental stress for Asian women of today, never mind their mothers or their grandmothers. That's the element that needs to be addressed. That's the thing that's causing Asian women of today mental health conflict. That's what they go to seek help for. And that's what the statutory services do not understand. That they can be so successful in a white world, and yet when they close their front door, they're expected to be obedient, cook and clean, and take orders from elders. My key messages to the statutory services for mental health is stop conducting research on us and our needs. Listen to us. Don't write any more reports, because the reports you write and the recommendations that come from those reports are never implemented. Stop researching us. Stop to give us the services that we deserve and we have a right for.
My message to mental health service providers and professionals, including Asian mental health professionals, is to wake up to the new reality. In many areas, such as Southall, we are the majority and majority citizens. Stop referring to us as ethnic minorities. Stop marginalizing us and our needs.
The mental health provision that is available for Asian women needs to be rethought and redesigned. A mental health strategy for Asian women needs to be set and designed by Asian women for Asian women. Nationally, the government and the mental health services need to acknowledge the experience and understanding that Asian women have themselves as lived experiences. Those services, the strategy and the services that then deliver that strategy have to be set by the Asian community, and actually not just by Asian women. Asian men also need to be part of setting that strategy and designing those services for the benefit of Asian women and the wider Asian community.
I think Asian organisations and religious organisations and the leaders of these organisations need to take steps to provide funding and locations that are safe spaces for Asian women.
The issue of mental health in women, both as separate issues and combined issues, are not discussed thoroughly, properly, and extensively within our communities. Mental health is a taboo issue, and women are not in positions of power or in decision making.
And to the community, it's, we have to stop treating domestic violence, mental health as a taboo subject, as something that either doesn't exist or it's a minor issue. It isn't. We have to talk about it openly, frankly, and it should be part of whatever mainstream service that organisation is offering.
Mental health is not seen as an issue that can be dealt with properly. It's seen as something separate. It's dismissed. It's not acknowledged. If there's in our communities, when somebody has mental health problems, we think it's associated with madness rather than illness that can be sorted out. So it's a taboo subject. And when it comes to women and mental health, it's relegated into something even beyond the scope of looking at seriously. So it's totally marginalized. The most important thing is that our community leaders and organizations, whether they're religious or cultural or political organizations, should make it clear and obvious to everyone and in their organizations that the welfare and well-being and safety of women and children are absolutely paramount and they should not be negotiated or compromised. What happens is when these issues are risen, there's a conflict on whose fault is it, etc. But we need to have an attitude which says violence against women has to stop. There's no reason or justification for it. There's no excuse for it. Even if somebody is drunk, that's not an excuse for violence. We need to make it clear that we need to create safe spaces for women if they suffer violence. And they have to be within our communities, not somewhere outside. But they need to be safe and need to be protected, so there's no compromise on their safety. The third thing I think that needs to happen is that women themselves have to be supported who raise these issues and not marginalized and seen to be dividing communities, which actually often happens when these voices are raised. And there are self-interest within our own communities of leaders who are mainly men who think their positions are being jeopardized. So I think unconditional support in terms of welfare and safety, even if it raises problems for us, we are strong enough to grow in equal terms.
The reality is that our social, political, and religious organizations and spaces are dominated and controlled by men. Secondly, they have and will continue to resist efforts to change or have women in prominent leadership roles. My message to Asian women is that they must actively participate within our community organizations, challenge our priorities and thinking, and affect change from within our communities, within their local families. Silence is not an option.
My two messages would be involve women in any decision-making process and in the organizations, not in a tokenistic way, but central to the leadership of organizations. Women have the brains, the power, the tenacity, the experience of lived experience of multitasking and getting involved in so many things that they would not just add value to an organization, but actually make it even more community oriented and more embedded in communities. So involve them in the leadership roles, etc. The second thing I would say to them is, we don't live on an island. Our communities have to be protected, but we are part of a bigger society, and our contribution has to be where women nationally can make an impact, and we should be supporting that element as well.
We must define our own needs. Our needs cannot be defined for us.
There is no shortage in making sure that it's your first to prioritize your own mental health by maintaining your izzat yourself. Be the change and protect our future well-being.